On today's DNVR Broncos podcast, we're breaking down the report from Adam Scheftner on the Broncos looking up to potentially trade in the first round. We're chopping Ryan's fingers off as well, and then we're going to dive into some top prospects in the first round, and it all starts now. It's draft week, boys, and we are breaking it down on the DNVR Broncos podcast. And thanks to Adam Scheftner, he dropped a little bomb to start the week on draft week. And we are live from our new studio, which is named Studio. So welcome to the studio.
We haven't named it yet?
That's the name. That is the name.
That's what Alyssa said they decided the name was.
Yep. We have the Toyota Lounge and Studio. You seem dumbfounded. You not a fan? Gonna have to do some work on that?
We have a company full of hundreds of creatives.
Yeah.
And the best name we could come up for Studio was Studio.
It's pretty bad.
We literally named a dog Dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe for the ironic
and
part.
I mean, Dog A and Dog B isn't much better, but it is better.
It is better.
You know, it was originally The Cave. This was called The Cave. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, over this weekend, it changed to Studio.
Even Cave would just be better.
I like Cave.
Cave.
We're in a cave right now. There's no windows. I guess there's one way back there. We covered the other windows up to make it look dope, like it does look.
Looks great.
Yeah, the studio is looking
fake, aren't they?
Okay, well, don't give us
sorry.
secrets.
I just haven't turned around.
It's looking good, and we are debuting this during draft week, and we are the DNVR Broncos Podcast. Henry Chisholm, Ryan Koenigsberg, Zac Stevens. We got Dion Anya here behind the camera. Fellas, how are we feeling to start draft weekend?
I feel amazing. The Avs and Nuggets are both up 1-0.
Yeah.
Should be 2-0 in a matter of like 12 hours.
Yep.
Weather's beautiful.
Yep.
Broncos are going to find a player that's going to eventually lift the Lombardi Trophy this week.
Wow.
Yeah, everything's great.
Wow. I absolutely love that. And what type of Henry?
Oh, I'm doing awful.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I've maybe never been worse. So the last two times I've gotten sick, it's been right after I traveled.
You said never been worse the last time you were on the show.
You're
on one hell of a run.
Still doesn't have a
Bar
phone.
just keeps getting.
Guess who still doesn't have a phone?
Can I tell you a
No
story?
phone?
Yeah.
That will make you feel like there's
Yes.
you'll feel better about
Please.
how you're doing.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
So Saturday night we're all hanging out here after the Buffs show, Nuggets, Avs, everyone's hanging out at the bar. Eric Weedham, D-line, famously, loses his keys. And he is scrambling all over the bar to find his keys. Spends, I would say conservatively an hour, but probably 2 hours. Looking for his keys.
Did anyone help, or you just?
Yeah, I
that
didn't,
doesn't
but
really
some
sound-
other people did.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I was watching a game.
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
That's his problem.
Yeah, like what am I gonna find the keys in the same place as everyone else is looking? No. Anyways, so eventually his air tag that he has on there updates, and it's no longer at the bar, and it's at Harrison's house. And so somehow his keys had gotten into Harrison's bag.
Yeah.
So he hits up Harrison. He's like, "Hey, can you come bring my keys back?" Harrison drives all the way back here, brings him his keys. Eric comes back. Now he has his keys. He's like, "Where's my phone?" I'm like, "Stop. You're doing a bit." He's like, "I literally just had it a second ago when I went down to meet Harrison." Goes down. While he was getting the keys from Harrison, his phone fell out of his pocket. And as Harrison drove away, he ran over his phone.
No way.
No.
What? And smashed it?
Yeah, smashed it. It's usually what a couple tons on top of an iPhone does.
Wow.
So I don't think you could be doing worse than that.
No, well, my phone is going to be delivered sometime today, but I have to sign for it. And they tried to deliver it on Saturday when I was in Minnesota at 12:37.
Yeah.
And so I'm really hoping that it's like 12:37 again because I left at 10:30 and I'll be back by 12:30.
Couldn't you just go to the facility and pick it up?
Well, if you can get into the settings, yes, you can, but you have to let them text you a code in order to be able to make those changes.
Changes to the
Delivery
order?
of the phone.
And you don't have
I don't
the
have a phone.
What
Yeah,
about-
you wouldn't
can't get
believe.
text on your...
Nope. Only iMessages. They don't send from. I tried just like what are the odds? This is like an iMessage. It's going to be
Wow.
over there. Yeah, but you wouldn't believe all the things that you need a phone to do. Like you
I
want
would,
to
actually.
Like,
Yeah,
they don't
I'm
give you
never without
menus
my
at
phone.
restaurants anymore. Like you have to use the QR code.
Yeah.
Like it was
that's
just
true.
over and over. Like there's
Especially
just nothing
traveling
you can
like
do.
you
At least
were.
you have a girlfriend.
Yeah, who had like my boarding pass and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I
You got
wouldn't.
to passenger princess the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
That's
no,
kinda
she was
sick,
like
actually.
She paid
streaming
for
things.
everything? Oh no, because
Ugh.
you have credit card too. So I guess never mind.
Yeah,
Dang,
no,
we
I do
should
have
stage
that.
one of you guys stealing my phone before I
I'm
leave
down.
for the wedding.
Especially
Oh.
And then I'm just like, sorry, Al, I can't help with any communication with anyone.
Wow.
I don't have a phone.
if I'm without a phone again, I'll definitely do it. We can just swap for a week.
Oh, okay.
What was a bit we did? Was it 2 years ago where you came up with the perfect first 10
Yeah.
picks in the mock draft?
Ryan's
That was so
idea.
good.
That
Yeah.
was so good.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, we were doing the draft show, and then after every pick, I would change outfits and go record. Like, number one pick will be this. And then by the end, I hit 10 for 10, and people on Twitter couldn't believe that I got it right. That was a good one.
Will you go 10 for 10 this year, Henry? The rest of this week, we're talking to some draft experts. We're talking to our guy, Fran. We're talking to Brian Baldinger. He's going to join us tomorrow. We're giving our final mock draft. We're going to break down what we're hearing leading up to this. And let's start with what Adam Scheftner is hearing right now. He dropped a massive piece just breaking down everything that he's hearing around the league. So many different teams. I believe the Bears are praying that Ashton Jeanty falls to them at 10 right now. And what he said about the Broncos definitely opened a lot of people's eyes. He believes the Broncos, well, what he said, I'll just read the entire quote in his piece on ESPN. He said, quote, "There has been, however, a lack of teams willing to trade up, at least so far. Denver is one of those. The Broncos have made inquiries about moving up in round one, according to sources, but there aren't many others. This always could change when players start falling and teams are on the clock." So specifically said, not a lot of teams are moving up, but the Broncos have inquired about it.
And I think the big thing is that other teams haven't. Because like George Payton said last week, like, yep, we've made a bunch of calls. We're calling everybody to see, like, can we move up? Can we move down? And so we knew that they were making calls to try to move up. The crazy thing to me is that nobody else is doing that. You know?
Well, and this to me goes exactly back to what I said after the press conference the other day when they said, we feel like you can get the same player at 10 that you can get to 20. I said, that to me tells me they want to trade up into the top 10. Because they feel like there's a significant drop off after that. And I mean, obviously the obvious move would be for Jeanty.
Yep.
But is there anyone else that you think that this could be for?
Yes, and I think it's a little bit for Jeanty, but also I think there's buzz going that the Jags are going to take Jeanty at 5. So now you might have to trade to 4. And I don't think the Broncos are going to get crazy for Jeanty, especially with how deep of a draft class this is at running back. You can still get a heck of a back at 20. Heck, you can still get a really good back in the second, third round, a starter, day one starter there. So I think that the Broncos are doing it a little bit for Jeanty, but I think they're also doing it for one of the 2 tight ends that's still available. And Ryan, you're kind of rolling your eyes because the Broncos have Evan Ingram. I would imagine that's why you're rolling your eyes there. But
And I'm anti-first round tight end.
well, I think the Broncos are all about a tight end here. We knew there was so much buzz around Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren as the season ended before the Broncos signed Evan Ingram. It kind of died off naturally after you pay a tight end about $12 million a season, who is definitely your day one starter, maybe the most important piece on offense outside of Bo Nix. But from what I'm feeling and hearing and the buzz coming from that building is they still want a difference maker at tight end for now and for the future. And there's 2 of them in this draft.
No, there's not.
And it's Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren.
No, that's like saying there's 2 running backs, Ashton Jeanty and Omari and Hampton. Like, there's a huge gap between those 2 guys.
Between Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland?
Yes.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so I have to preface everything I say with this. Whatever the Broncos do, I'm going to believe in because it's obviously Sean Payton's grand plan, and who am I to disagree with it?
Yeah.
With that being said, if it were for Warren, I would be exponentially more excited about it than I would be for Colston Loveland.
See, and that's where I think that there is a big gap. I agree with you personally. I don't know how the Broncos feel about those guys, but George Payton talked about it last week, or Sean, one of them, the Paytons, said how there are more players in the 10 to 20 range on their board than there are in the 1 to 10 range. So when it comes to trading up, it doesn't make sense to trade up to 15 to just get the same player that you get at 15 or caliber of player. I think and it doesn't necessarily mean they have to trade up into the top 10 though. It means if one of their, let's say 5 guys that they have graded as a top 10 pick falls to 11, 12, 13, okay, then they're going to make the jump. And so I don't think, that's why definitely with Jeanty, if he's one of those guys, and probably you draw that line a little earlier in the draft, instead of dropping to 11, you would draw the line for Jeanty, like if he drops past 7, you go and make that jump, because then it's not going to cost you a crazy amount for a running back. But I think with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, it's, okay, do they slip right around the top 10, outside of the top 10, specifically Warren, because he is a game changer. And my sense, talking to people more so around the league than with the Broncos, is that Colston Loveland is going to be off the board by 20 as well.
Yep.
And so if you want him, you're going to have to trade up, even if it's not for the number 1 tight end.
Yeah, it's going to be a no for me. But unless they do it, and then it's a yes for me.
I love it. I love it. We get to make the rules here.
Yeah, exactly. I can change my opinion on whatever I want. The Warren thing would excite me, because then it's like, wow, they really have a master plan here. And obviously having 2 great tight ends would make Bo Nix's life even easier than having 1 great tight end.
Yep. A triangle that Sean talks about.
Yeah, and I put Warren in that group, and I'm curious if you have him in here, Henry, of like the guys that we were saying are freaks. You know, and I would say some people disagree with us, but it's like Jeanty, it's Travis Hunter, it's Warren, and then probably Tetairoa McMillan.
Yep.
To me are just like total kind of anomalies for what they bring to the table at their position.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, just to play off that really quick, Brian Baldinger came on our show a couple of months ago and said Tyler Warren is like a baby Gronkowski, like a young Gronk. That's a freak.
Yeah, for sure. And then I just think there's a big drop off after that at the position, and I think that Colston Loveland is good and exciting. I saw someone say that he's a more well-rounded tight end than Warren. I don't think that's true.
No.
So to me, it's like, man, if you were to get one of those guys, and I know that a lot of people disagree with us on T-Mac, but especially those top 3 guys, which Travis Hunter, we would say, is probably like a 0.000001% chance.
Yep. Even though the shirt looks dope.
It does. It does.
I guess that's why.
I got to rep all my guys that are getting drafted all week.
Yeah.
Jeanty, smaller chance. I actually think of all of these guys, Warren has the highest chance of potentially falling out. And if the Broncos have a just top 5 potential grade on him and he slips out of the top 10, then let's go.
I totally agree. Let's continue this conversation and hear what Henry has to say after I give a shout out to our friends over. Let's just say this is a monster shout out. And because it's for our friends over at Monster Jam Live. Become a fan for life over at Monster Jam with awesome trucks, amazing stunts, action-packed excitement, and big air. It's the definition of fun for everyone. In fact, I had like my 12th birthday at Monster Jam.
Sick.
And it was so cool because typically my birthday is April 2nd. So it's like the end of Nuggets season, end of AF season. So typically I go to one of those games. And I think Monster Jam just happened to fall on my birthday. So my mom's like, let's do it. And it was so much fun. And it really is fun for everyone from 12-year-olds, probably even like 3-year-olds would love it. And then also like up to 70, 80. If you can get to the stadium, it's just a blast because no one really knows what's going on. So that's why everything just flips and the cars are flipping. They're standing on 2 wheels. It's 12,000-pound trucks that are flying through the air. Definitely not. I would have assumed that would have broken a phone for sure. They've got the pit party, so you can start your fun in the pit before, and then you can end it with a post-dinner meet or a post-event driver meet and greet with the drivers of Monster Jam. Yeah, exactly. Dream come true, especially. So great gift, great date, great activity to do with the boys or the girls. Make sure to check it out. You can click the link in our description for tickets. I promise you it's going to be a blast.
Is it on a Sunday?
It's a good question.
I just wanted to say Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Yeah, so I was in Minnesota this week, and I had my first ever traditional Minnesota Easter, which was a lot of fun.
Traditional Minnesota Easter.
Just, I mean, the ham and all the just Easter. We don't have time for all that.
Just
But
Easter.
the point is, I was told that somebody was re-roofing their house, and it was very expensive. And my first thought was like, wow, there's no Red Hawk Roofing out here in Minnesota. But if you had Red Hawk Roofing, you probably would have gotten a better deal. Red Hawk Roofing is the best. They use quality materials. They've had the same relationships with the same customers for a long time because they have decades of experience here in Denver. They're quick. They are the best estimators and contractors you'll find in Colorado. And they're huge DNVR supporters. There's no obligation if you want a free roof and property inspection. They give you a free in-depth photo report for all of your inspections. And remember, you can't always see how bad the damage to your roof is from the ground. Supporting your local teams means also supporting local businesses like Red Hawk Roofing. If you are looking for a new roof over your home or business, be sure to check out Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com or call 720-771-8921 and tell them DNVR sent you.
Quickly want to give a shout out to Angel or Angel, who gets the first person ever in my life to call me pessimistic.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say the exact same thing coming out of that. How does it feel? To just be such a Debbie Downer, just taking our show down.
It feels new.
Yeah.
It feels new.
Yeah.
Like I said, never in my life has anyone ever said that.
No.
It's like maybe a character development story happening.
It actually
right
is.
before our eyes.
Wow. I don't want that character development, though. I don't want the pessimist. And he says that I am an optimist, which I think I've been called that many times. And Henry, you're a realist, which means according to him, he says he wants Henry's take all day. What's your take on this?
I think Ryan was right when he said, there's that group of like 5 guys at the top who are just like kind of special. They're guys who you look at and say like, oh, if Travis Hunter turns out to be a Hall of Famer, nobody's going to be surprised. If Tyler Warren turns out to like be an insane tight end, nobody's going to be surprised. Colston Loveland is in that next tier below though, where it's like real blue chip prospects, like good prospects who could be really, really good players. Again, he's only 21 years old. He's a lot faster than Tyler Warren, and for that reason might fit better with what Sean Payton wants to do. And even though he's faster, like he's also a half-inch taller. He's 8 pounds lighter. He has longer arms. He has bigger hands than Tyler Warren. Like there are a lot of physical boxes that Loveland checks, even more so than Warren, which is why like you look at him as maybe a little bit raw and it could take some time. But like all the traits are there and the talent's there. It's just not quite as exciting as seeing the guy who just broke more tackles than any tight end in the history of college football.
Yeah, I mean, and was in the Heisman race
Yeah.
for a good while.
For a tight end. That's insane.
Who's a comparable prospect? Can you think of one for Colston Loveland, like a really raw, athletically special tight end?
Tight end is tough. Because you think back to Kyle Pitts, and there are a lot of Sam Laporta comps for him, and maybe that's the one.
Give me that all day.
Yeah.
And wasn't Sam?
Why was Sam,
Right
was
around
Sam
there?
considered to be raw?
I
feel like he
second
was
round.
really
I mean, I think he was young.
okay.
I could be wrong, but I thought he was a 3-year player. Like, and again, like Colston Loveland, raw. There we go. Colston
And
Loveland
young.
is raw, but he still has had like really productive games. It's just that he isn't a great blocker because he's still kind of skinny.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to put that weight on. Maybe he can block. We'll see from there.
So here's what I think that the conversation with Colston Loveland, it needs to change a little bit from where we're thinking about Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren, you likely have to get into the top 10 or like 11 to get him. Colston Loveland, though, it's talking about trading up to 14, 15, 16, because you feel maybe it's not those teams are going to take him, but you feel that the Chargers, a couple of spots behind you, are going to jump up and take him because of that Harbaugh connection in Michigan. So it's not an additional first to go and get Colston Loveland. Let's say it's a 4th. Does that make it a little better? It's 20th. No, I'm not selling it.
No,
that was a pessimistic shrug.
It's not.
I'm kidding.
It's not. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah,
Like I said, I'll be on board if that's what Sean Payton wants to do.
yeah.
I kind of think that the trade up is maybe for Omari and Hampton. That's the one that's been on my mind. Because like jeanty's not really touchable. Running back is kind of that one spot that they need to fix. And Hampton being kind of that clear number 2 kind of consensus in this draft, I think that could make some sense to move up for him.
I think it's changing about I think Travion Henderson is really making a gigantic push over these last 2 months. I think teams aren't changing their mind, but it's coming out more how many teams actually like him. And I think that's making teams question, like, are we going to get him at 30? Are we going to get him at 25? Are we going to get him at 20? Do we have to go to 15? So I think Omarion Hampton is definitely in the conversation
Educated guess.
for that. But I also wouldn't be shocked if the Broncos are getting a little bit nervous that TreVeyon Henderson won't even be there at 20, on top of Hampton as well.
Yeah. I mean, Hampton won't be. I think we've gotten to the point where Hampton's not going to be there at 20. So if you want him, you got to trade up. With Henderson, it's still like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
3 tight ends or 3 running backs before 20?
I think it's possible. I'd guess no, but I think there's 3 in the first round. I think I bet over 3.5 in the first round.
I like that.
Maybe it's 2.5.
2.5.
I think a big reason why, Ryan, is because the quarterbacks, like we're talking about at most that will go before 20, I would think, is 2. And last year you had 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12, which to every team that didn't want a quarterback, that was perfect news. That was great because then it just pushed all the other good players deeper in the draft. This year, you're only going to have 2 go. And so that means 4 other players from this year to last year, 4 other non-quarterback players will fall to that 20 spot or won't fall to that 20 spot that did fall to that 20 spot last year. And it could be those running backs and or tight ends.
Yeah. And someone in the comments, I said a raw tight end prospect who's a comparison. Someone said George Kittle. I think it was Strez.
Yeah.
George Kittle went in the 5th round.
Yeah.
And so
1 pick behind Jake Butt.
Yes. I actually think that the Broncos have the luxury of doing something like that. Get your raw tight end late in the draft.
Yeah.
I like Lachey out of Iowa, just like George Kittle. To me, it's like now because you have Evan Ingram, you can do that. You can take a 2-year development project on someone and say, okay, we're going to bet on this upside. You don't have to go get the more raw prospect all the way up in the first round.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you, and that's what makes day 2 interesting and why I think the Broncos draft a tight end by the end of day 2. So it could be in round 1, but in day 2 is it might be even the mix that you're talking about, Ryan, because there's an Arroyo, there's a Fannin who are just unbelievably talented. Like you just look at their physical and they've got it what you would want, especially to be a weapon and to especially take over for Evan Ingram. But you can wait until round 2 or round 3 in order to get those guys. But I just think that the Broncos, I don't know what it is. If Sean's just in love with Colston and how he can play right away and he really wants to utilize 2 tight end sets early on, or if it's just they think he is special.
All right.
He might be. There are a lot of guys who are going to be super raw in the first round too. Like, I mean, because it's not like he's somebody who hasn't played football. Like the guy's helped win national championships, is the best player or best receiving threat, at least on that offense. And I think that when you look around, like Matthew Golden is more raw. Honestly, like Hampton even might be. TreVeyon Henderson probably is. Like it's not that he's so raw that you're just only drafting tools. It's that, you got to put another 10 pounds on him if he's ever going to be a blocker. And if you're happy with not letting him or not using him as a blocker right away, you can probably find a role.
Yeah. Having 2 tight ends on the field at a time that aren't blockers?
That is tough. And that's why I was never that interested in it, but we'll see.
We will see. Let's one more thing that I want to put on here because I don't think it's been talked about enough. And Henry, you kind of touched on it, but this report from Adam Scheftner, I do think there's something to it for sure, but it wasn't the Broncos are desperate to make a move up in the draft. It wasn't the Broncos are set on moving up in the draft. It was they've inquired. And that's one thing that when the Broncos hired George Payton, he said he was going to do. He said he was going to be in on every deal, every conversation with trades in the draft, with also players in free agency. And that's him doing his job. And he even told us, I asked him last week, so when do the talks to trade up or down start? And he said, we started them this past week. They'll continue throughout the weekend into next week. And then they really heat up, obviously, like a day before the draft or something. So this isn't a surprise. But as Henry said, it's a surprise that the Broncos are kind of the one team that's sticking out among the rest here. But it also is interesting that Scheftner didn't include, the Broncos are also inquiring about trading down. It's only about trading up, and I don't think that surprises any of us because Sean Payton's in the building.
And if you think about it, it's literally you have 31 calls to make, and in this case, 19 calls to make. Like you should absolutely every GM in the country should make those 19 or whatever their number is calls to find out, hey, what would you guys want if your guy's not there?
Right.
Because if you just say, oh, can we make this trade right now? They're going to be like, nah, we have a guy we like, whatever. But it's like, hey, if your guy goes, what would you want?
Right.
And then when that pick comes around, and like Henry and I have been talking about, like, you can just know what your price is. And so you're not going to call the team that said, we need 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, because that's above your price range.
Right.
As soon as you get down to the area where it's like, okay, they want a first, a second, and a third to come up to 9. We're in.
Right.
And so if our guy's there at that moment, we're making that call. That's like easy stuff. I will say this, George Payton, like always wanting to know the price reminds me of like, did your guys' dads ever do this when you were walking into a sporting event when you were a kid? Like they just asked the scalper, like, what are they going for?
No, I am always tempted. I've only done a couple
and you're
times.
like, we have tickets, Dad.
He's just like, I just wanted to see. Just wanted to know the price.
Yeah. It's good to know. I mean, he does know. Like he said last week. Like he said, I've talked to most of the general managers in the NFL. There's like, well, what did Adam Schefter say? He's talked to most of the general managers in the NFL. Like everybody's saying the Broncos have called him. And I wonder, again, he did say like, if there's some calls where it's like, hey, if this guy's here, we want to move up. Or, hey, if your player is here and you move up, what do you do? So like, it does sound like, at least according to George, he's also talking about trading down. But if Adam Schefter says that nobody else is really asking about trading up, then the trading down doesn't really stand out as much as the trading up does. And I would imagine the rest of these GMs are just going to be doing that this week. Like to me, I just think they made these calls last week, or George made these calls last week, and the other teams just haven't done it yet. And George is just a go-getter. Maybe this afternoon they're making all those
Wouldn't
calls.
you want to be last though? Because then
you get to know prices and stuff.
Or
like,
first and last.
Maybe he circles
that's
back.
true. Because if you're first, then like a bunch more teams call. They're like, oh, there's demand for this. Like we can raise the price.
Yeah.
I just think, I don't know if this is how it actually works, but I feel like it's very clear cut with George and Sean in a good way. Like Sean says, find out what it takes to go get this guy. And George says, okay, I know he's not going 1 to 4, so let's call and get the price from 5 to 11 or something like that. And it's probably very deliberate because if we know anything about Sean, he knows what he wants. There's no beating around the bush. He knows what he wants. He tells George, and then George is excellent at executing that. So there was a very interesting comment in the Toyota chat that I want to hit on. It was, what happens if Mason Graham falls to like 10? Should the Broncos go and make a trade up for him? And let's talk about that conversation with a couple of other guys. I think we're talking about Mason Graham. Who else, Henry?
We've done T-Mac, so probably not him.
No,
Abdul Carter won't
who
fall.
are we breaking down today?
Oh, it's the breakdown. The other Walter Nolen.
Yep. He could be one.
Mason Graham. There's a third.
There's a third.
Was it a
Derek Carr?
No.
Jihaad Campbell. Yeah.
Campbell.
Wow, just a voice from out of nowhere.
Thanks, yeah.
Helps with,
he's on top of it
with that. He is on top of that. But before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Toyota because they've got giveaways going on. It's their playoff giveaway. And let's drive into the playoffs with Toyota. And holy cow, you're going to want to sign up for this right away. Their giveaways are insane. Not only are they giving away like a full suite to a Nuggets game, but then they're flying you out to a game on the road.
Sick.
So you can go to LA, they're going to put you up in a hotel. You're going to bring a friend. That's true. Okay, then you just get the suite in Denver. How about that? Kidding. Is that pretty good?
I'll take the high-class trip to LA.
Yeah, seriously. Plus, how about this? Ryan, you've already got a Toyota, but you could be upgraded to an epic 2025 Toyota 4Runner.
The dream.
They're giving away cars. They're giving away the best tickets you can get in Denver right now, and they're doing that in the link in our description. Don't miss out on the opportunity to be part of this Nuggets playoff frenzy. Drive to the playoffs with your local Front Range Toyota stores: AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Aurora. Toyota, the official automotive partner of the Denver Nuggets and the official vehicle of DNVR.
Also, shout out to our friends over at Bet365. This is probably the time where I have the most money in and out of the year, which is NBA and NHL playoffs.
Oh, yep.
I'm getting all sorts of action over at Bet365, and we're off to a hot start.
Yep.
We're off to a hot start, and that's really all you can ask for. There's something great about when an event starts and you're up early.
Oh.
And like you just feel like you have a little bit of wiggle room to work with.
Yep.
It's a beautiful thing. So get over to Bet365, use the code DNVR365, and get set up with $150 in bonus bets. That's code DNVR365 for $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Win or lose, all you need is that bet to settle, and those $150 in bonus bets are in your account, and you can start making crazy parlays like an Avs Nuggets championship one, which I have a few different versions of.
I hope I get my phone today.
What are the estimated odds on that? The parlay? Because Nuggets are plus 4,000 right now, or somewhere right around there.
They probably moved up a little bit, but
Okay.
let me give you the exact.
And Avs are what? Plus, before the series, they were plus 900. I'm assuming plus 800 or something now.
Yeah, well, I have an Avs Nuggets both to win the Western Conference, which is plus 6,800. I have Avs Nuggets to each win the championship, which is plus 22,400.
Oh my goodness. So not only would your heart be happy, but the bank account would be happy.
Yep.
What-
I also have Avs to win the championship from much earlier, a long time ago, at plus 1,400.
Okay.
And they're almost already offering me double my money on that. So they're starting to get a little nervous.
Yeah, definitely. Really quick, what are the I haven't looked at the odds for tonight's game. Obviously, Nuggets and Avs, very different game on Saturday. Nuggets going to overtime, win by 2. Avs just absolutely destroy the Stars 5-1.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds tonight?
Oh, okay. Let me get it
Do we
up.
know?
Sorry. Just closed.
I wonder.
can't remember.
I wonder if minus 1.5 is. It's got to be plus money, significant plus money for the
Yeah,
Avs.
Stars might even be.
A lot
I
of
would
like the
imagine Stars are
hockey
favored.
analysts too are just like, oh, Stars can't skate with the Avs. It's over.
Oh, okay.
Which makes me
Which
a
is
little
true.
uncomfortable. But
No, love
Avs are plus 170 at
Wow.
minus 1.5.
Okay, minus 1.5.
Minus
Oh,
150 on the money line.
Okay, and then Nuggets, if you got it up,
Nuggets.
it's probably still pretty darn close.
Nuggets are plus 1
No.
and minus
What?
105.
The game's in Denver. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
That's
I
great.
guess we don't have to apologize for that or
No,
be mad about that. Just ride the coattails of that.
Parlay it.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the other guys. We're continuing our Broncos 15 and 15 leading up to the draft. And let's start with Mason Graham, because as someone in the Twitter chat, I'm sorry, I did not see who it was, but someone in the Twitter chat said, like, would you trade up to 10 if Mason Graham fell? Of course, we're talking about the defensive tackle out of Michigan, one of those guys that's just viewed as an elite player or in that category of being one of the top guys. It's very much thought that he's just going to the Jags at number 5, but let's say the Jags go with Ashton Jeanty. And I saw a rumor floating out there that the Raiders actually might not go with Jeanty and they'll go with one of the edge players and not Abdul Carter. And it's like, oh, please do that. Just go with the classic Raiders pick. So off the board. So let's say
Classic
Mason Graham-
Raiders pick would be Matthew Golden, with all due respect to
That is
Matthew
true.
Golden.
Well,
my
yeah,
guy.
it definitely would be. You go with the fastest guy on the 40.
Yeah. And then I would be 100% sure that he was going to be a bust.
Yeah, exactly. But if he's with the Broncos, it's good.
100% sure he's going to be a hit.
I love that. So, Henry, would you trade up, let's say to 10, for Mason Graham if he's still there? Is he that good of a player?
Personally, I don't think so.
Okay.
Like, to me, he's a defensive tackle, and he just kind of beats guys up. When you go back and watch games against like Wake Forest or like the USC game, like he's just destroying their guards and their centers. Because he's 6'3", he's not like the tallest for a defensive tackle. He's 320 pounds, but it's all just like he has quick feet and he just goes straight ahead and nobody can really stop him. But the reason I probably wouldn't draft him with the top 5 pick is just because like he has short arms. Like he's not your Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers type of like interior pass rusher. Like he doesn't really have any moves. He just has like this power and motor. And, when he gets in the backfield, he chases guys down. But he's never really been all that productive as a pass rusher, which I think is kind of what it comes down to. I think, he plays a lot like a DJ Jones, and he might have like a little bit more like juice, straight ahead ability. But to me, again, he has 9 sacks over the course of 3 years. Like he's a good player, but I've always thought that top 3, top 5 is a little bit crazy. As Dre once said, is Mason Graham just Quinnen Williams, who's a good player, but again, when you're drafting in the top 5, you're hoping for a guy who's like one of the very
Game
best.
record.
Like you want Chris Jones here. You want one of those guys. And to me, he's going to be a good player, but I'm just not sold that he has that top end.
Well, and if that's how you feel about him, then absolutely not. You
Yeah.
don't do that. But there are some people that think he might be that special category, and then you would, because you mentioned the Chris Jones. How important is he? Or you just look at how you want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Look at what the Philadelphia Eagles did with that pass rush, specifically from the interior of the defensive line. So if you think he's that category, then yeah, you probably trade an additional first-round pick, which is crazy to say for an interior defensive player. But he better be that dude.
Yep.
You don't trade up. You don't even use a second-round pick to trade up for a guy. This is no disrespect to DJ Jones. DJ Jones is a heck of a player, but no one would trade a future second-round pick and number 20 overall for DJ Jones right now. Like, DJ Jones is a very good player. You have to get more than very good when you're going defensive tackle early in the draft. You have to get elite.
I pretty much bar for bar agree with everything Henry said. I think he's a really good player. That's where I draw the line. Really good player.
Very fair. Very fair.
I pulled up what Lance Zierlein said. Said he may not dominate as a pro, but his strength, body control, and quickness should allow him to play his brand of ball and become a good starter and upfield defensive front.
What?
You
not
want
a
him going
trade-up
straight forward?
guy.
Like,
No, that's not.
Like
That's,
he can punch, he can get through, but no, I agree.
That's a draft at 20 if he falls, which he's not going to draft at 20. But that's not draft at 10. That's not draft at 5. Man, if the Jags really, because everyone has just penciled in Mason Graham to the Jags at 5. If they feel that way about him, they should go Jeanty at 5.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
I would say
where-
they should go Jeanty.
Yeah, I agree with
Yes.
you. Okay, so that's how we're feeling about Mason Graham. Good, maybe not special. Henry, where are we looking at now? Jihaad Campbell?
Sure.
Let's stay on the
Okay.
defensive tackle front.
Defensive
Trenches?
tackle.
Okay, where are we going?
Walter Nolen.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, big guy. He's when the concern with Mason Graham is like, is he big enough and long enough to really like make an impact? You know, that's where Walter Nolen just kind of excels. A former number 1 recruit in the country, goes to Texas A&M, I think, and then transfers.
Yep.
Is just a monster. More of that, maybe 3 technique, more so at least than Mason Graham, probably a little bit longer. And, you know, like good production. 6.5 sacks this year, 4 sacks last year. Like Mason Graham, a first-team All-American. I think that there's a lot to like in terms of like the upside, but you would probably say Mason Graham was just the more dominant player this year. Again, I just fear that it's a little bit different when he goes to the NFL. I really like Walter Nolen though.
Yeah, but I like Walter Nolen as well. In fact, some online, it maybe even be Lance Zierlein, who has his comparison as John Franklin Myers.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, if the Broncos were to make this pick, he would be coming off the bench for this season because you have Zach Allen, DJ Jones, and JFM there. He would probably replace John Franklin Myers after this season because JFM has 1 year left on his contract. He's been vocal about wanting a new contract on Twitter. And so Broncos probably just ride it out 1 more year. And boy, would Walter Nolen be such a good pick because he would just fit right in there. And then you pair him up with Zach Allen for the foreseeable future. And boy, you have 2 great defensive ends in a 3-4. A very, very good player. The interesting thing about Walter Nolen, he might go top 10. A lot of people are linking him at 11 to the 49ers, who always draft defensive linemen. But there's also a chance the way this draft goes and how deep this draft is, and there's not a clear consensus of how this draft is cut out in terms of ranking the defensive linemen. He could fall to 20. He could fall to 35, and the Broncos could make a move up to get him there.
Yeah. Would you trade a first-round pick for John Franklin Myers on a rookie contract, though?
An additional first?
I'm just saying, like, what did we get him for
The
last
answer
year?
is no. A sixth?
Sixth, yeah.
And maybe you got 7th back.
And then he took a pay cut.
No disrespect to JFM, who I'm
Yep.
sure is seeing this. He's online a lot.
Yeah.
But that's really rich.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I see. It's drafting at 20.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is if John Franklin Myers is his comp,
Yeah.
you're trading a first round pick for JFM on a fresh contract for
Yeah.
cheaper.
Right.
I would add though that John Franklin Myers isn't far off from being one of those guys. Like I think that if you're like an interior rusher and you put up Like if you put up 10 sacks, that's rare. And for JFM to go get 7 last year, like 3.5 before that, 5, 6. Like if you just bump each of those up by like 2 sacks, then all of a sudden you say like, oh, 9 sacks last year. That's the kind of guy who we would be willing to give up an asset for. So I guess that's the tough part for him too. When he's making like $8 million a year, new contract, maybe he's in like the $13 million range. Could Walter Nolen just be that tick better that gets him up to like 20? I don't think it'd be crazy.
What's fascinating about JFM, since we're talking about him, last year, right when he was traded to the Broncos, he agreed to restructure his contract, took a massive pay cut, 2 years, $15 million, $7 to $8 million a season for these 2 years. But he was making like $12 million with the Jets. And after just 1 year of proving it again, he's like, okay, show me the money. We might go right back up to that spot that he was at with the Jets just last season, but it would all work out for the Broncos if they did re-sign him because they got at least 1 year for cheaper. And it would probably be an extension. So you'd actually get 2 years on the cheaper end.
While we're on the subject of defensive tackle, I'm noticing I like kind of like what George said. I like some guys in the top 10, and then I really don't like anyone until like later in the draft.
I couldn't agree more.
So I want to let you guys in on a secret, but it has to be a promise that it never leaves the
just
room.
Between us. Yep.
Literally just between the 3 of us and Dion.
Yep.
3 of us and Dion.
Not even Yaya back there too.
There is a defensive tackle out of Nebraska who is really, really good, and you can get later.
Yep.
And his name's Ty Robinson. And there's another guy also, Nash Hutmaker, who's pretty good too. I like Robinson a little bit better. So you didn't hear it from me.
No.
But he's really good.
That is maybe the biggest compliment I've ever heard given out by anyone. For you to say that college's name and associated with a really good player, he must be really good.
He's really good. Both of them are really good. Basically, if you couldn't stop them, you were going to lose to Nebraska. That happened to us.
Here's something to piggyback off of. Defensive linemen, specifically, the bigger you get, the more you're going to fall in the draft. And that's why a player like Mason Graham has to be special for you to do a top 5 pick on him, because you can get good players. DJ Jones, where was he drafted? In the 4th round? He was a really good player coming out, and he was drafted in the 4th round. You can get guys like that, whether it's him, whether it's someone else, and especially in this draft. Tight end is a deep draft, running back is a deep draft, and defensive line is also a deep draft. So a deep draft on top of an area that typically gets pushed down anyways, you don't really need to reach here.
I agree.
Totally.
All right, let's move to Jihaad Campbell.
There we go. Yep. Linebacker from Bama. What did he weigh in? He was 6'3", 235 at the combine, with long arms, 4'5", 240-yard dash, 5-star recruit, first team All SEC this year. His second year, I believe, as a starter. He's a good physical linebacker. He can hit. He's really, really good in coverage. But just like a lot of linebackers now, you kind of wonder, what is he taking on blocks? Plugging up A gaps. It's one of those guys where you don't really know whether he's going to ever be a positive player in the running game, but you're willing to take the gamble because he's so good in coverage that those guys are just hard to find.
I mean, this is a guy that can play the position extremely well. And you know you're getting a really good football player. Like, the floor on him is very high. That's a concern that you mentioned, Henry, the running game. But, man, to have an inside linebacker, not like a converted safety, but an inside linebacker that's able to cover is now so valuable in today's NFL. The fascinating thing about him is inside linebacker is a complete opposite from those other 3 positions I just talked about. It is not deep at all outside of Jihaad. You might not see another guy go until the 3rd round, potentially. There's been a little buzz recently that the cat from UCLA could go in the 1st round. That would really surprise me. But you might have to not reach on Campbell, but because there's one top guy and then a big drop off there. For the Broncos, though, you don't need a 1st round inside linebacker.
Well, I just think
right now,
even if they did, I still don't think they'd do it. There's been no evidence of the Broncos drafting high on linebacker. It's not in the George Payton era, not in the John Elway era.
No.
You know, it's been a long time.
You know who the highest drafted inside linebacker is for the Broncos the past decade?
Gotta be Josie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Josie
Unless you
Jewell,
count Drew Sanders.
4th round pick.
Yeah.
I guess it could be Drew, which would be a 3rd round pick.
Okay.
But I'm trying to think when they drafted him. Did they say outside or inside?
I think they said outside
I
because
think
that's the
so
more
too.
valuable position.
Yep. So yeah, Josie Jewell, and then of course like Wesley Woodyard was a 5th round pick, and that was more than 10 years ago. Todd Davis, obviously undrafted. Danny Trevathan, 6th round pick. Yeah, the Broncos just don't use draft picks on these guys.
Yep.
And especially
And they just paid one.
right, they just paid one, and Alex Singleton coming off, and you have a guy like Drew Sanders who is now going to be inside. So if you want the developmental guy, you have it all there already.
Yeah. If you still think that Drew Sanders is on that path, which we'll just never know what they think.
I don't think they have high hopes for him.
No, I mean, how
Somehow the fan
could
base
they?
really does, though.
It's because
Yeah.
you know who the fan base also loves, and this made me go on a rant about a month ago, and I keep seeing
Alberto.
it. No, yeah, I mean A.T. Perry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, why are we counting on him like being one of the receivers on this team? I don't get it. I'll stop there, but
I don't know. Yeah. And I feel like just the vibes that I've seen is like people are still high on Drew Sanders, but like out on Riley Moss.
right,
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on here?
Yeah, that part of it's crazy. I mean, he could be a good player. To me, we talked about this on the draft pod, but like you're a linebacker. Your job is to back the line. You're not a safety fronter. Like first, your job,
Safety
yes,
fronter. Wow.
your job is to help with the run game. Like number one priority for a linebacker, you have to be able to stop the run. Like that's the point.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if you can help out in coverage, then that's good too. But
We should just create a new position called safety fronter.
safety fronter. So it's a
I'd
coverage
push
inside
for it.
linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe even converted safety.
So
Who's back
Jihaad
there.
Campbell's a safety fronter.
I would say
your mind?
Jaquan McMillan is kind of a safety fronter.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow, this is a different position than I was thinking.
Yeah. No, because he's like, again, primarily like number one job, coverage, all that stuff. But you're also up there in the run game making all those plays, doing that stuff. But that's kind of like the gravy, not the meat.
Right.
Yeah. And
makes
that's where like,
sense.
but first round linebackers, that's how almost all these guys are going to be. Like it's so rare that you see one who's like, wow, this guy's incredible against the run and the pass, because that just doesn't really exist. And so everybody's gambles on the guys who can cover in hopes that they can say, hey, you're 235 pounds. We can teach you how to do the other part. But just too big of a risk for me.
It's instinct.
That's probably
too.
why the Broncos don't draft high, because it's pretty easy to say, like, we're just not taking first round linebackers because those are these guys.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with Jalen Walker from Georgia, where it's like, yeah, he didn't really play like a real position in college.
Right.
Similar to Drew Sanders and Nick Bonito. It worked out for Bonito, hasn't really worked out for Drew Sanders. And if you wanted, you could say like, yeah, you play off the ball, you just run and chase, and you're probably athletic enough to cover, but you're just gambling on the fact that you're doing something that doesn't really matter. Same thing with Carson Schweschinger, the UCLA linebacker, who's incredible in coverage. It's like he's fine against the run game, but more of like run and chase than actually plugging anything. Or when it comes to playoff time, it's Derrick Henry in the A gap, and you've got whoever coming in to block you. It's probably not the guy you want.
Speaking of positions really quick, there was talk about what will our friend who took a picture of us, Roger Goodell.
Oh yeah,
What will
Friend of the
Roger
program.
Goodell announce for Travis Hunter's position?
Yeah.
I think I have the best one, because people are like, he should say wide receiver and cornerback.
Yeah.
No, he should just say football player, University of Colorado.
Do you think Travis would like
Wouldn't that go
though?
so hard?
It would. But Travis has
That'd
made
be
it
good.
clear he wants the receiver and defensive back.
Okay.
football.
I
player
would make
go
my
hard.
case to Travis
Yep.
that this sounds even cooler than that.
Yep.
It does.
Football
It
player.
does.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because he doesn't want athlete,
Nope.
but football player.
Football
Yeah.
player. That's just what it is. Plays football.
That's
Yep.
pretty good. Let's continue and hit some super chats that we have. But before we do, I got to give a shout out to everything we're doing here this week. And
Big
if
week.
you want to get in on all of our coverage, you can do that for less than half off. I literally had someone, our friend Alamo, in my Twitters in my Twitter mentions when I promoted this, they said this is an incredible deal for a diehard, and he's spot on, because it's $36 to get our diehard membership for an entire year. That includes a free T-shirt. That includes, if you're going to be at the bar for any of these games, it includes a discount at the bar. It includes a discount on merch. It gets you not just the Broncos coverage for a year, but it gets you every single sport that we cover for an entire year for just $36. If you sign up with us, we really appreciate it, and get you, I promise you, by next week, you'll have your monies paid. with the content that we're putting out there. I have my mock draft up on the website now if you want to go check it out. I'm going to drop what I'm hearing leading up to the draft tomorrow or tonight, so stay tuned for that. And then, of course, the draft Thursday. You got to come out to Stoney's with us to celebrate the first round of the draft. We're going to be there. Benny's going to be there, and it's just going to be an awesome time. So already a lot of people have tickets, but make sure to get your tickets now to get in.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
It's going to be epic.
It
That's
is.
going to be a great night. I'll be all over the place that night.
Yep.
Here, there,
Everywhere.
And I also, low key, I know we already have a buffet.
Yeah.
I'm also going to get some of Stoney's wings because they
Ooh.
have great wings.
Just that good.
Yep.
You know what I heard from a source inside the Buffs beat?
Okay.
I heard that the sooner that Travis and Shador are off the board, the quicker that show wraps up, which means the quicker all of you guys will be at Stoney's. I just assumed because, we do the Broncos, you're just live for the whole round. I just assumed that, I don't know why I thought that, but it doesn't make sense for the Buffs to do it, so it makes sense you're not doing it. But if Shador's off the board at 3, I mean, your show might be done by pick 7, pick 8.
Yeah, I mean, I think no, but you would do, 15 minutes of reaction on Travis where he's going.
Yep.
15 minutes of reaction on Shador where he's going. 15 minutes on what's next for the Buffs.
Yep.
And then you're out of there.
Yeah, that's pick 7 then.
But I'm out of there faster.
Good. I love to hear that.
So everyone, even the haters and the losers, should be rooting for Shador to go as early as possible.
Oh, I'm
Except for the people who hate me, then you should be rooting for Shador to go, which probably adds up in the first place.
Yeah,
Well,
you're
but-
probably
but-
already doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But what's tough though is people that hate you and are pulling against you, which by the way, there's not many of those people that hate you.
There was that one guy in the chat
Today?
said you were negative.
Oh yeah, pessimistic.
Yeah, he says he's coming if I bring optimism back into the building. I promise you on draft night,
Yeah.
you're not going to find a more optimistic person
Yep.
than me.
I
I,
mean,
brought
you've
the
already been
optimism last year
Yeah.
when we picked Bo.
You've already been setting it up today. Like
Yes.
whatever the Broncos do, it's going to be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
They could pick Cam Scattaboo.
Yeah.
At 20, I would be selling that.
I would be so hyped.
That
would be so
That
hyped.
would be crazy. That graphic's going to go crazy, Henry.
Because I just believe in Sean Payton. If that's what he wants to do, I believe in the vision.
Cam
So-
Scattaboo is going to be a good NFL running back.
He is.
But here's the thing: if people want to cheer against CU and hope for that Shador doesn't do well, specifically Shador, I don't know if they would be happy if he falls
true.
in the draft, because then if he goes to Pittsburgh, is that realistically the best place that he could go for his success?
No, I would say San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
then
man,
LA.
Purdy to the Steelers then, or something like
Sure.
that.
Yeah, sign me up.
Ooh, yeah, LA. Okay, you're right. Yeah.
And if you really want to cheer for it, bet on Shador to go under pick 8.5 at plus 300.
Wow.
That is crazy.
I know. It's a
Especially with
good-
all the
yeah.
work the Giants are doing on him. That you can get plus 300, and you can probably get even more if you wanted to buy it down to pick 3.5.
There's a lot of people that believe that both the Giants and the Browns are seeing if they could do the double. Get Travis with their first pick and then trade back in to get Shador, which would be unbelievable.
Especially for
I hope
those.
if it happens in the NFC.
Yeah, well, and especially for both of those. Well, so then that would be the Giants for you. But nothing could resurrect the Cleveland Browns more than that.
I agree. That's what I've been saying.
So I'm right there with you for that. All right, let's jump into some super chats. First one coming in from Brandon Nadell, who says, this is his scenario. First round is Omarion Hampton. Second round, Tyleek Williams, defensive tackle. And third, Mason Taylor, tight end from LSU. Thoughts? From hearing Fran last week, Mason Taylor in the third round would be one of the steals of the draft.
He's plus 100 to go in the first round.
Okay.
So if you can get him in the third, then
Yeah, big steal.
Yeah.
I mean, even
Wait, what's the over under on first round tight ends? 3, 2.5?
Yeah,
1 second.
got to be 2.5 with a little juice on the over.
Where's Mason Taylor from again?
Oh, they don't
LSU.
have one. They have running back, quarterback, receiver, and offensive lineman.
Bummer.
Mason Taylor has jumped Arroyo. He was kind of in the conversation with Fannin, so he's really had a good offseason. And he's another guy. He's kind of viewed like Colston Loveland, like has the traits, He's just been a consistent like 400 or 500 yard receiver, but people think that he's going to continue to develop. Obviously, if his odds are plus 100, people think he's going to be special.
What's your fan intake?
He's good. No, he's awesome. I think people get all upset because of the 40 time. It's like, well, it's a 40 time who was a 1/10 of a second slower than you would have liked. And guess what? He's coming from Bowling Green. Like you put him in the Penn State program and teach him how to run a 40 for 3 months, it'd look very different.
Oh, Fannin. I thought you said, what's your fan take?
Oh, no.
On Mason Taylor.
No,
Fannin
Fannin, like, you talk about like Tyler Warren with the run after catch. Harold Fannin's the only one who even comes close and exceeds it in some ways. Like all the different screens and things that you do, the way he blocks downfield, even like the
that
inline
would
stuff
be a
isn't
Sean
there,
Payton
but
pick. A Sean
would be.
Payton pick.
It would.
yeah,
I also think a Royal, though, in the second would fit
Yeah.
Sean as well. I mean, he is like, if you want to look at like who's Jimmy Graham in this draft class from the tight ends, it's probably him.
especially in that he just hasn't played much football at all. Like
Yeah.
because he moved to Texas from Cuba, maybe somewhere down there, and like never really was a football player. Then got to Miami and was hurt, and so he really only has like 1 year of actually playing real football, and he did fine. And the offense was chaos because Cam Ward isn't actually any good. So like it was just kind of go out there, run around, see what happens. So it wasn't even like real football where you're like, okay, we can build on this. It was just like, yep, you're big and you're fast, so somebody can do something.
Can you believe that guy that you just said just causes chaos and it's not real football is like minus 20,000
Yeah.
to be the number 1 overall pick?
No, it's crazy.
It is.
Yep.
It's wild.
It really is. And we talked about this on the draft pod. I was making a lot of bets on Miami last year, so I was watching a lot of Miami football, and that was not like, it's the exact opposite of Shedeur Sanders, where it's so precise and put the ball here. And like that one, it's just like, okay, somebody run around, quarterback's gonna run around, and then we'll throw it up, and guess what? It's gonna be a laser that's like 6 feet off target, and the tight end might just go run and catch it though.
Yeah.
Well, and every game ended with like Miami pulls off the miraculous
Yeah.
victory thanks to Cam Ward's heroics, and it's like, well, they needed a miraculous victory because of Cam Ward in the
Threw
first
those
half.
picks or was missing open receiver, just spiking passes. It's like, what is going on here?
And then literally needing the officials to like reverse a call that probably shouldn't have been at the end of a game or something.
They had
was that
some
one?
very good
they did.
luck, we'll call it, in the first half of the season for sure.
Where-
But I still like Cam Ward. I think that he's a good prospect. I just think anyone who doesn't take Shedeur that needs a quarterback is going to regret it.
What I just can't believe that he's just like the consensus number 1 overall because he has tools, especially to be like exciting and stuff. There's no doubt about it. I just can't believe he is so much the consensus number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
It's
and then
crazy.
You've got Jackson Dart, who is like the exact same as every other Ole Miss quarterback. Like it's Chad Kelly all over again. Or
I
it's
don't
like
know,
who's
man.
the other guy since then?
I like Jackson.
Tyler Shuck.
No, the other Ole Miss quarterback who just got drafted. I can't remember his name.
Matt Corral.
Matt Corral.
Yes,
yeah, it's the
yes.
same thing. It's like, look, the quick little pass. And it's like, yep, one
Dude, I don't
read.
know. Jackson can move. He is.
Chad Kelly could move too. Matt Corral could move too.
Matt Corral could really move.
He could really move.
I think there's something there with Jackson.
Like I'm down to give it. I like Chad Kelly and I liked Matt Corral and I like the Jackson Dart too. But again, as like a first round pick, it's a little bit crazy.
That's fair. Let's
And
get to
same
our
thing with Tyler Shuck. Yeah,
Let's get to our final super chat from Broncos Slick Lakers.
L-word.
Yeah, L-word. Yeah. It says, I stand firm, trade back extra picks this year and next. I would have to be blown away by an offer to trade back. And it would be, I'd have to get a future first.
Well, it would probably, the most likely scenario of that is Shedeur falls.
Yep.
And the Giants or Browns try to jump back up and get him. And in
front
that
of the
case, you
Steelers.
could charge them a first round pick next year.
The quarterback premium
Yeah.
of 100%. Yeah, especially with the Steelers 1 pick behind where they're being linked to a lot. So the Broncos could be getting calls to move back. And man, that dynamic between George and Sean, of Sean's like, man, I love Trevion Henderson, or I love Matthew Golden, and George is like, but we can get 2 first round picks to move back. That would be fascinating to see play out.
Well, it would probably be a second this year and a first.
And a first,
next year.
yeah. That's probably what it would be.
yep. I would love it. What I like is in Madden when you wind up with like 15 picks in the draft, and then like half of them you just trade for the next year's draft, and they move up around, and then you have 15 again. And you have teams like the 49ers who's every year get 5 comp picks.
Yeah.
And so they show up to the draft with 12, 13 picks. Yeah, trade down from your first, then trade back up with some others.
Yep.
But until the Broncos are like hacking that system, it's hard to say like you really should just be trading back consistently.
Well, let's dive into our mock draft tomorrow. We're going to have Brian Baldinger on. That's going to do it for us today. Everyone have a terrific Monday. We'll be back with you on Tuesday, one day closer to the draft.
We all silly like the mayor.